lot of self-deprecating behavior comes from critical parenting, from our childhood. I keep talking about childhood upbringing because it matters so much. It shapes you into who you are as an individual, as
Completely.
a person. If you've experienced critical parenting, where your emotions, your feelings, I think your needs were dismissed by your significant other, your significant caregivers, primary caregivers. When you grow up, you will become a critical parent to yourself. Even if you don't have parents who are critical to you.
Yeah.
Over a period of time, they'll become too nice to you. They'll understand you. They'll make you feel seen, heard. But then there is a part of you that says that, oh, I have to be critical to myself. Only then I will function well. And that's why a lot of perfectionism also comes. Why do you think people have this problem with perfectionism? Because maybe they've had a critical parenting where the parents wanted him or her to be a certain way, that you have to be perfect in order to be good or to receive our love or receive our appreciation or to make you feel seen and heard. So what happens in your head? Now you've had this belief system that I have to be perfect in everything, and it can be so self-deprecating, so much that sometimes you start romanticizing it also. That it's okay, I'm perfect. I'll want things to be in a perfect way, perfect to T, and it can affect you in many different ways.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashtin Doctor, your habit coach. And as you know, as a habit coach, we define habits slightly differently. We talk about the actions and thoughts that are repeated at a set frequency. Now, we're all familiar with actions and habits, tying your shoelaces, brushing your teeth, but your thoughts are also habits. And this is why we have an expert with us. We're going to be talking about the role of habits and mental well-being. So join me in welcoming Ekta DB onto the Habit Coach podcast. Ekta, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
My
my
pleasure.
pleasure. My pleasure too, to be on this pod. I know we've been trying to do this since very, very long.
Apparently, you said 2 years we've been trying to connect with.
Yes.
So finally.
Finally.
So Ekta, in your field, when you're talking to people, when you're talking to your clients, you hear this word of habits, and mental well-being. What is the connection between mental well-being and habits? How do they influence each other?
I think I would like to look at it from the lens of that how they're intertwined with each other. You cannot minus mental health if you let go of the habits. It's your habits that shapes your mental health. The kind of habits that you have, the habits that you inculcate or you practice every single day. Like, let's suppose if I'm like a couch potato, just chilling, eating bags of chips, not really moving my body, not really doing things that will help my mental well-being or to help me improve the overall quality of my life, then how do you expect my life to be or my mental space to be good? Or how am I supposed to function in the most, I think, tasteful way? No. So it's my daily habits, it's my daily, I think, actions that sets a proper, I think a picture or sets the theme of how I'm feeling about myself. Let's suppose, I'll give you an example. If I'm constantly doubting myself or I'm questioning myself whether I'll be able to do it or no, or I don't really risk or take risks enough, I don't put myself out there, I will not be a confident person. So my habits determine how I feel about myself and also determines how I feel about others, which is why we need to be so mindful of how we operate in life, the habits we inculcate, the approach we have towards life, and that's only possible with what action are we getting into every single moment. It's not that, okay, because sometimes it's said that, you can eat clean, you can work out, you can literally do everything that it takes to put yourself out there. But if you don't fix how you look at yourself, if you don't fix yourself,
perception of yourself,
you're going to be in a bad mental state. So there are many mental habits also. It's just not physical, emotional or spiritual. It's mental as well.
What are some of the big habits that you see coming up with your patients and your clients that come to you? Like, what do you hear from people saying that this is, or you pick up as a habit saying this is what we need to start removing, this is what we need to start adding in?
One of the biggest problems that I'm noticing, even today's generation, is, or people overall, it's too much of rumination or even getting into the all or nothing mentality. Either I'm good or I'm bad. There's nothing in between. Makes me wonder how we're completely swinging to two different extremes. It's either I'm too good if I've done something, or I'm too bad. But I think we need to understand that we are a mixture of good and bad both. We're a mixture of a black and white both. We're grey. None of us are black or white. We are a mixture of both. The moment we, I think, radically accept I can be this, and there are parts of me that can be this as well. So when you start accepting this is when you become much more, I think, patient with yourself. You become more compassionate with yourself. You become more grateful towards life. I think you operate in much more ease.
You know, it's interesting when you say this because the kind of words that are being used nowadays are exactly that. I'm either a winner or a loser.
Yeah.
There's no normal, there's no in
yeah,
between.
yeah.
And, even when you look at, for example, Formula One or Grand Prix, it's first place or second place is
That's
a
it.
loser. Right?
Yeah.
It's the first of the losers is
Yeah.
what we're calling it.
Yeah.
You're right. This kind of mental attitude constantly affects your life. And also, I think it's so exaggerated with the way that we are constantly viewing other people's successes. On social media, only see successes.
100%. No one talks about the tough times. No one talks about what we see is just the good parts of people's life. We call it highlights.
Highlight,
Only the
correct, highlight reels.
highlights of people's life. We don't see what struggle that they've been through. If I see someone doing absolutely great, we don't realize what the person is actually experiencing in their real life. Maybe their relationship is completely effed up, right? But they're showcasing great work culture. They are a go-getter. They're doing things. But relationship is completely marred. Or it's I think it's in complete doldrums. Let's say. Or maybe someone who's just posted a picture. And I think with social media, it's become so easy for us to compare ourselves to others because it's out there. And for us, visual approval is the topmost in the entire pecking order. When we see something, we start relating.
This is what I want, huh?
And human nature is as such. We have a habit of associating everything in life. Let's say, I know one of my aunt, she had all her sisters and her family members passed away at a very young age. So she started thinking or, she started developing this mindset that, or anxiety in her mind that I might also go, experience death at an early age. Why? Because I've associated this is what had happened with most people, this all will happen with me. Unfortunately, we associate everything. So let's suppose on social media, when I've seen someone posting a nice couple picture, and I'm going to ask myself, but my relationship isn't like this. It's like, oh, but you don't know. Before posting a picture, they might have had a fight, like a massive fight. You haven't seen that, right? So it becomes easier for you to associate, easier for you to compare, and that's the most unhealthy habit that we've gotten into. I think the most unhealthy ones, I would say, is comparison. We're comparing ourselves to everything today.
Everything.
When we see someone's downtime, when someone posts on social media saying, I'm going through this or that, somewhere you look at it and you're like, I'm not the only one who's going through this. Somewhere we are a sadist. Looking at someone's downtime, like, oh, thank God, even he or she is going through this. Or this person is just been through a breakup or a divorce or whatever. So it just gave me some comfort.
And that is also an extreme, right? So you're either
Yes.
showing your victories or you're showing your defeats.
Yes.
And people are only associating these two. Nobody shows you the normal boring day.
100%.
So I used to follow me and my habits every day.
Yeah.
And people used to reply back, but your days are so boring. I was like, yes, because the boring days make consistency.
Exactly.
Right? And I realized
think
that
throughout your boring day, there's 0.1% of change.
nothing.
Right.
Why? There shouldn't be a change because slowly, it all adds up to an amazing life.
Compounds. And even like throughout your day, maybe you did everything. Even if it's boring, that's fine. I'm sure there must be something that you really liked. Unfortunately, people think that my day has to be either extremely good or it's bad. So what happens? You also tend to, another habit is catastrophizing. Getting into the negative downward spiral. It's like, if my day started off really bad, my entire day is going to be bad.
Yeah.
You generalize it. That, oh, this is how it's going to be.
To be the worst.
Yeah, it's going to be the worst. So then you start imagining worst case scenarios. I woke up late. Then, oh, now I'm going to run late to my office. Then I'm going to run late for this thing. Which means the whole day is going to be bad. Then you start looking at every hurdle as, oh my God, that's a problem. this is a problem. This is a problem. This is why this is one of the reasons why we're experiencing high rise in anxiety also. If you go back to our evolutionary times, the hunterers and gathering days, we used to look at a problem that is only when a predator would come to us, we would look at that situation as a fight and flight situation, right? Only then our system used to look at it like, okay, it's a crisis period. It's time for you to either fight or flight. Now we look at everything as a crisis.
As a fight or flight.
As a fight and flight, which is why constantly into this fight and flight mode. We either want to fight a situation or want to run away from it. And of course, we have a third response is freeze.
Do nothing about it.
Do nothing about it.
Go to sleep.
Yeah, just go. I loved that you at least brought this up. A lot of people have this habit. I have a problem, sleep over it.
Sleep over it.
I get like, I become fine. I be okay once I sleep over it. Just sleep over your problems. No, it doesn't work that way. Because it goes into your subconscious mind. It magnifies. You don't have to sleep over your problems. Before you go off to sleep, just tell yourself that, okay, this is the problem that I'm facing right now. And what are the things I can do to resolve this? Don't just sleep over it.
Yeah.
Make sure that you sleep. Okay, fine. You feel like sleeping, no problem. Give about like 5 to 10 minutes to get into this whole, just maybe like a mental journal. I wouldn't even ask you to just write it down. Have a mental journal. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What has happened? What were the causal factors? And because these things happened due to blah, blah, blah reasons, let me figure out what's the solution to it. So when I wake up, I know what I need to work upon. And not that I wake up with a jarring feeling that, oh my God, now again, it's come to haunt me.
And then you know what you do next? You start cleaning your room.
Yes, you clean your room.
Yeah, because you don't want to do that.
Eat.
You binge eat. You do something else. You
Yes.
distract yourself. You don't solve the problem.
Yes. And which is why we have these unhealthy eating habits also. It's called emotional eating. You don't feel, you're like, I don't know what to do. Let me just take a bag of chips and eat.
Start.
Maybe let me just pick something, anything that's handy. Or maybe you'll end up ordering something because you're emotionally volatile right now and you'll start binging.
So how do we stop these things? Like, for example, you start with the habit of comparison, right? How do we stop ourselves from doing this? How do we get out of this negative loop?
It's, I think, as trite as it may sound, but it's by being aware. By being aware. And only awareness doesn't solve the problem. Awareness along with what measures can I take in order to mitigate this situation or in order to prevent it. Not mitigation is a separate story, but what can I do in order to prevent it? Once I become aware that what I see, it's like I'm comparing myself right now to this situation. I have to ask myself, sometimes you overlook your achievements. Let's say I've seen someone doing great and I saw that on social media. Now I'm questioning myself that you're not doing good enough in your life. You're not good enough. You start self-sabotaging. You start questioning yourself. You start thinking that you're good for nothing. So what you do is, in the entire process, you put someone on the pedestal, you put yourself down. It's a natural process. When you put someone up, you're naturally putting yourself down. So first step is to be aware that what I'm seeing right now is, of course, this person is putting hard yards in. This person is definitely doing something to get there. What is it that I can extract and learn from this so that I can apply in my life?
Amazing. So what can I learn from this situation? What can I learn from this person?
Instead of feeling jealous, instead of comparing yourself, I think the best is to extract the lesson or extract what can I pick from this. Let's say someone doing great work and that person was awarded for it. I'll learn from it. I'll not compare myself. I'll learn. Okay, this is what he did. This is what she did. Let me learn from it and I'll start applying in my life. Awareness is very important. Awareness plus action is important. Only awareness will never solve the problem. It's like, I know that I'm supposed to do blah, 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 blah things. But where are the actions?
What do I need to do? Implement it.
Implement it. And sometimes you have to start the implementation on a very minuscule level, on a very short note, which means it could be as simple as that I can pick this one habit and put it in my daily habits, which means I can do it every single day. That can get me closer to my goal of reaching there.
Got it.
So it's like making sure that every single day has that small habit that can push you towards your goal.
It's like in my first book, we spoke about the 3 golden rules of habit change, and the first golden rule is make it stupidly small, right? You should feel.
I would like to call it make it too small to fail. Too small to fail. For example, if I tell myself that you are supposed to read 10 pages of a book, and if I am a non-reader, let's suppose, I'll be like, I can't. But if I tell myself, let me just read one sentence or maybe one paragraph, I'll be like, itna to I can do. So I make it too small to fail.
So I call it stupidly small because I feel stupid not doing it. It should be that small that, you feel stupid. How could I have not done this? It's so silly. That tiny is how each of our habits should ideally be. So, Ekta,
What are the other two? I would love to know.
The second one is make it extremely easy. So this is removing friction.
Yes.
So anything that would make you give an excuse for not doing it is removed.
Yeah.
So how do you make it easier and easier and easier? And the third one is never miss 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
So that is the one on consistency. So the first one is what is the habit. The second one is removing friction. And the third one is a rule for consistency.
A lot of times it's often said that we don't do things, we procrastinate. Because procrastination is not a time management problem. It's a emotional dysregulation.
Absolutely. 100%.
It's because you don't want to experience that discomfort while doing that. For example, a lot of us, we put our administrative work on a back burner.
Correct.
Because it's like too much to handle. These administrative work I don't want to do.
I call it future Ashton's problems.
Yeah. I'll look at it later.
It's his problem.
And
as a future Ashton is a different person only.
Yeah. So I'll put it.
He'll end up paying the extra fees also.
Exactly. So we don't face our problems, or we do not really keep up with our habits. Also because it's not to do with you don't have time. You do have time, but you don't want to face the hard efforts, or you don't want to leave your comfort, which is why you don't do it.
Yeah.
So it's your emotional dysregulation.
So with regards to procrastination, I say we procrastinate for 3 reasons. The first one is because it's too hard to do, which is what you're saying.
Yeah.
The second is because it's too easy to do. So when it's too easy, you'll be like, I'll do it anytime. That one email that you just had to forward, you won't forward for 4 days, 1 week till it's too late.
Yeah.
Right? So too easy to do, too hard to do. And the last one is that something in your body is trying to warn you about this event.
This I do agree to that. But I think talking about the easy one, there's one habit that I follow. Anything that takes less than 10 minutes, do it immediately. Don't put it on the back burner. Just do it. Just do it. And I've realized that this one habit has really helped me finish a lot of my work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, when I look at my to-dos and I'm like, oh, this is ticked off.
Then you get momentum.
Not just momentum, it motivates you. So sometimes you need an extrinsic motivation in the form of ticks to get that intrinsic motivation.
I love it.
And it's just about getting started sometimes.
It's all about that.
Yeah. Once you've actually, you switched on the ignition, you're about to drive. That's for sure.
So it's getting the wheels in motion.
Yes.
So I had one interesting thing. So recently a friend of mine just got out of a marriage. Okay. And now she's like, I am now ready to date. I want to now start going out and dating. Now, I know this whole dating world, the relationship world is a big thing right now, right? I'm sure with the clients that come to you, etc. Also, it's a huge, aspect on people's minds.
Because people hate being left out.
Being left out.
Yeah, because everyone's doing mushy things in relationships.
I also want to be doing that.
Even I want to do it. I don't want to feel left out, which is why.
So what are some of the big relationship hurdles that people are facing? What are the big relationship habits that you are noticing that need to slowly start tweaking?
There are many. One is talking about this example that you gave me. A lot of us, we do not heal enough. And because you don't heal enough, you bleed on other people who didn't hurt you. Right? This is a quote, and I really love this saying, that when you don't heal, you bleed on people who didn't hurt you.
Correct.
And that's so true, because sometimes your past baggages is something that you carry forward in your new relationship as well. Let's suppose I had some trust issues in my previous relationship. If I won't heal, I will carry this forward in my new relationship as well, where I'll be like, this person might not be trustworthy, just like my previous relationship. So what happens is, you completely come into this whole phase of carrying everything in your new relationship when you don't heal. But it just needs, you need to be cognizant enough to understand that the person I was with is different from the person I'm with right now.
Correct.
They're completely two different people, different upbringing, different exposure, different experiences, different, I think, all of that.
The only
Their
common
belief
part is me
systems.
in this
Yeah,
situation.
the only common part. And what I bring to the table really, really matters. I don't have to bring anything from the past. It's my choice. But if I end up bringing, then I have to be cognizant of what am I doing in the... It's gonna harm in the long run.
Exactly.
So one thing that I notice is people do not heal from their past relationship, and they hop on to the another one. Which is why you have to sit with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that my past relationship did not cater to? What is it that created some kind of a turmoil, emotional, mental, physical turmoil in me in my past relationship, that I don't have to now get it along with me? Because this is what we do. Simple as that. When you go to a supermarket, let's suppose you went to a supermarket, you had this list of things that you had to buy. You miss out on a couple of the items. Now you reached home and you're like, oh, I forgot these 2 items. What do? You put it in your list, carry it forward, so that next time when you go to the supermarket, you'll get them. Right? What did you do? You carry it forward. So this is easy. This is fine. This still makes sense. But this is something that we apply even in our relationships. That maybe my previous relationship, my previous partner did not make me feel seen, heard. He was too dominating. Maybe this person is also dominating in nature. He might manipulate me to do things that I don't want to do. Right? But it's important for you to know that this person is completely like a blank slate. Know who he is. I'm not saying this new person might be completely aligned with you.
Yeah, he might not be the rock star you've been looking for.
Correct. But you need to understand him in his own element, and rather than imposing all your past baggages.
Lovely.
So one habit is to sit with yourself. And a lot of people, like I said, they apply their past experiences, past, I think, lessons to the new one. Saying past equals to
This person.
So you have to stop doing that. The other thing that I notice is triangulation that people do in their relationships, which means, let's suppose if I have a fight with my partner, I'll get third person involved saying, tell me who was right.
Lovely.
Why do you have to do that? Because I believe that it's only you two will understand the dynamics of your relationship, will understand what you two bring to the table, what alignment you both have, because a third person will never understand your equation, no matter how hard you try. I see a lot of people do that. Gen Zs do that. They'll always involve their friend. That, acha, you tell me who was right. Don't you think that I was right? Don't you think that he did wrong to me? Whatever the case is. So triangulation is one of the most manipulative tactic that people use in a relationship. It's an unconscious habit people get into, and that's not healthy.
Very interesting. It's like dinner conversation. Na? You know what he did to me the other day.
Yeah.
Now you tell me, would you have done the same thing?
Exactly. And this is something that we do even in parties.
Yeah.
Like we sit with chill with everyone and like, listen, this is what he does. No, speak with him. I believe that do not speak about your relationship to someone else. Speak about your relationship with your relationship partner.
Nice.
Not with anyone else. So it's a saying. I don't know if I'm kind of putting it right, but don't speak about him, but speak to him, about him, or whatever the case is. So triangulation is one of
And one aspect in the triangulation itself, which is there's a right and a wrong.
Yeah.
Who's
And I
right and
don't
who's
think
wrong? There's never a right
but
or wrong.
there's no such thing as right or wrong in a relationship. There's no such thing as your truth or my truth. It's the truth. Okay.
Which neither of us will know.
Yeah. Of course, because my truth is always going to be different from your truth.
Correct.
So the fact is to understand that however my partner behaved was as per his approach to life, how he functions, how he operates. I have to understand. The other thing that I notice is people think that if, let's suppose, if my partner has an unhealthy habit, okay, where whatever the habit is, I start, or maybe this person just, let's say he has anger issues, let's suppose. I literally tag him as an angry person.
Identification.
No. Learn to separate the person from his behavior. These are two absolutely distinct features. Person, his behavior. You may not like something about him. Tell him about it instead of just saying that you are this person.
Correct.
And lashing out. No. So that's another unhealthy habit that I noticed.
You're
where
a loner. You're a this.
you don't go out.
You're,
You don't socialize with people. I'm such a social butterfly. You don't go out with me, this, that. No. Maybe you can come to a midway conclusion saying, how, what do you think? What can we do? Because I like socializing. I know you don't like it. That's something that you don't enjoy as much as I do. Where you've been respectful to the person, saying that you don't like this socializing aspect. You don't tell the person you are a loner. No. So you've separated the two.
Yeah.
Person with his or her attributes or
And
behavior.
Ekta, this is at an evolved level that we're talking about this. But you see so many relationships where people are calling each other fatty, motu, lambu,
My
patlu, all those kinds of things are.
Yeah.
And all
This is
those
called labeling.
it is constantly taking place in relationships. And it has such a dramatic effect on the...
You'll be surprised. Recently, I think, not recently, it's been like a while, where I posted something about how partners are abusing each other, using cuss words, abusive words, and they say it's just for fun. We like it. That's how our equation is. We abuse each other, use the words for each other. And I was like, but I don't think that's respectful. Even if you call it that it's fun, it's not respectful. It's like, oh, this is our relation. This is fine for us. Over a period of time, when your mental narrative will change towards cuss words and abusives, then you'll be like, no, how can he say that to me? How can he use this word for me? Right? And this is something people need to understand, that you can't normalize or romanticize these things. Unfortunately, people are romanticizing these unhealthy behaviors. For example, situationship that people talk about these days.
Oh, we're in a situationship.
Yeah. And people are romanticizing it. That we are in a relationship, but we are in a figuring out stage. Let's see. We don't call each other boyfriend, girlfriend. We don't tell people that we are in a relationship. But we are in a process of, let's see, we're just going with the flow. But it's a scam. Okay. Having said that, I completely disagree with this part. Maybe just call me like old school, or because I'm a millennial.
No, but you don't label so.
Yeah. But I'm like, even then, of course, like we were in the process. Even as a millennial, baby boomers or Generation Y, even they were in the process of figuring out, but they would know their boundaries also. Here you are literally being as if you are in a relationship and not call it a relationship.
You know where all this started?
No.
Facebook.
Oh,
when you had to give
yeah.
relationship statuses,
Oh, yes.
you had single, married, or in a relationship,
Complicated.
and it's complicated. And it's complicated was the one where basically all these situationships, etc.
I think that's where we started normalizing it.
We started normalizing it from understanding relationships from that point of view.
Yeah, it's complicated. We don't know where are we. No. I believe if you're in a relationship, be in a relationship. If you're not, then don't say that you are in a relationship. It's said that don't do wifey duties for someone who doesn't even want to make you your girlfriend, make you his girlfriend. Yeah, so that's a saying. A lot of people do that. They treat that person as a boyfriend or do all the girlfriend duties, but she doesn't know where is she. in this entire equation of two.
In fact, it's so interesting. These kinds of complicated relationships, like unclear relationships, obviously in terms of romantic relations is one thing, but even with friends, it is a big one. Am I part of this group or not part of this group? Are you all my friends or you're not my friends? There's always this kind of
I think it's vagueness.
in that vagueness, a large part of your energy, emotional energy is drained with this. So absolutely right. So one is this kind of uncertainty of where we are.
Yeah.
But what are some habits in relationships that really supercharge them? That take them to the next level? This is stuff that is making relationships like on teeter-totter.
Yeah.
What is stuff that will, like, if you start doing, your relationship will become full-on next level bloom?
One that I keep telling people, that whenever you want to address a problem to your partner, don't use contempt.
You tell
Don't
me
use
more.
There's one habit that I really dislike is a lot of people, and this is I'm going to segue to your question. Stonewalling is one of the things. It's like, if I did not like the way you behave, I'll just give you cold treatment, silent treatment. I'll become cold, distant. But I think one of the way to resolve conflicts, and I love this conflict resolution, is by sitting and speaking with your partner that, listen, I know whenever you are ready that you want to talk to me about this, but I think this is what bothered me. I know that however you behaved, or that's the way you operate, maybe I'm sure that there must be a reason for you to have behaved in a certain way. But whenever you're ready, you want to discuss this, I'm all ears. So you know what happens? You've given the other person that space to come up with it whenever he or she is ready. That the person does not feel that, he's compelled.
Forcing it.
Or forced to.
Tell me now.
Tell me now. Just resolve this right now. No, sometimes, see, people operate in a very different way. Let's say if two people are they've had a fight or they had a conflict, they have something which is literally like a burning issue right now. One of the two would want to resolve it immediately. The other wants some space. That, give me some time, let me be mindful. Otherwise, I'll say something that I shouldn't have said and I'll regret that later. So let me be in my cave and I'll come back and I'll speak to you about it. So you have to learn to manage your relationship, understand the equation of your relationship. It's like man managing your partner, understanding that how does he operate or she operates. So I have to understand that. And it's important to communicate where you are not putting blame game on the other person, saying you behave like this. No, start shifting, and I'm sure that you must have come across this, that use a lot of I statement instead of you statements. You did this. You've done this wrong. No, just say how you felt in the process. That, I was a bit hurt because ABC thing happened. Instead of saying, you did this to me. You hurt me. And you're always late. You always do this. One is, we literally use extreme statements of always, never, should do this, must do this. No. Maybe just allow that person to choose, right? So whenever you are putting across your point, make sure that you're using I statement. Focus on your emotion. Focus on how you felt. Don't say, I felt this way because you did this again. You. I felt a certain way. Let's suppose you're out on a date and you're someone who loves to be on time. You love managing time well. For you, even that 15-minute of, I think, that delay can kind of irk you. So you can tell your partner that, I would love it if we come on time. I'd love it. So that I get to spend time with you all the more. I would have loved it. So you've put across your point without using the blame game and contempt.
I think so many of us have been brought up with conflict as the only way to solve problems.
I see a lot of people say that if it's not bumpy, there's something wrong. No. I mean, bumps are bound to happen. That's fine because you're two different individuals. But how you resolve your bumps are also important.
Yeah.
You can't stonewall each other for like 2-3 days. You're like, I'm not texting him. I'm not messaging him. I'm not calling him. Let him only do it. Or her only do
I remember my first girlfriend in college years ago said this, Ashton, we don't fight. That means you don't love me. I was like, what sort of logic is that? So like that fight was the symbolism of now, there is emotion involved in this.
And I'll tell you, the whole reason behind why people feel this way is because they've been brought up or they've seen a lot of conflict in their surrounding. They've seen a lot of drama. A lot of people who thrive on dramas can actually make you feel that way.
Yeah.
So it's the dramas. So let's suppose if I've brought up in a conflicting situation where there's so much of drama. Now I thrive on dramas. Now if there's no drama in my life, I'm going to be like, life is so boring. I want dramas. It just makes me feel so alive.
Correct.
It puts me on that fire. So you have to, even that's one of the unhealthy mental, I think, habit one needs to get out of.
And you know where this started from?
Yeah.
Friends.
Yes.
So Friends taught us how to talk about relationships and how to talk about sex. Because before that, there was no social
conversation
there
as
was no
such.
conversation that used to happen. Then
Yeah.
once Friends came about, and because it was such a huge cultural phenomenon,
Yeah.
completely changed the way that we approach these two
100%.
conversations.
100%.
And now it's part of our life.
And which is why a lot of people think that coming back to it is your style of communication really matters, and that it can either put your relationship down in doldrums or it can literally lift you up. And it can create like a great alignment between and great partnership between you and your partner. It's how do you resolve your problem? How do you communicate? Now, have you watched a football match? So when there is a ball coming at you, as a goalkeeper, you look at it as an attack. What do? You defend. That's a job. Now, in a relationship, if someone, not just in relationship, even anywhere, like in friendship, family, relationships, everything, when someone tells you something and feels like an attack, the first thing that you do is you defend yourself. You don't try to understand where the other person is coming from. You just defend yourself. That's your job. It's like, I want to defend right now because I need to safeguard myself.
Correct.
And our job is to safeguard ourselves all the time. Safeguard our fragile ego sometimes. Safeguard our self-esteem. Safeguard our identity, our image that we have. Because we don't want to look down upon ourselves. And unfortunately, the irony is we look down upon ourselves.
After that as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, let's suppose if your partner has said something which is too attacking, you will not put your hard yards in to understand where is she coming from. You'll be like, it's time for me to defend. I have to defend myself because she's attacking me. Make sure that your communication is so seamless, without drama, without attacking the person or person's identity. Anything, I mean, the only thing that the person can't take is someone attacking my identity. If someone attacks my identity, I'm like, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, you've attacked me and my life.
Yes. So that's something you have to, keep yourself away from in your relationship. And this is the most important habit. Whenever you communicate, make sure that you communicate with whatever you want to share from your end without making it seem as if you're attacking the person. So your conversation style really matters.
Yeah.
Your tonality also matters. It's said that it's 72% of your tonality and it's just 28% of what you speak.
Correct.
The matter.
It's the style in which that you talk. For example, I think the best teacher of this is, like, for example, if you have lots of narcissists as your friends or in your relationships, etc. Because how do you ever tell them anything, right?
Yeah.
Because they are always right.
Yeah.
So one of the easiest ways of doing this is what I've learned was to say, let me give you a perspective.
Yeah.
And then you see whether this perspective works for you or not. I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying this
And
is
I think
wrong.
the
I'm
best
sharing a
way is
perspective.
like, this is what I'm suggesting. What do you think about it?
No, forget suggesting.
Yeah.
Suggesting means a thappad you'll get.
No, again.
Yeah.
But you know what? The best way is that you share your thing, but you also end it by saying, what do you think about it? So what happens? The other person gets an illusion of choice. That's what matters. So it's an illusion of choice. So there are a lot of these relationship habits that you need to be mindful about, where you do not get into comparing your partner with someone else. That's another thing.
That's a big one.
Do not compare your partner. Not just your partner, but your relationship with someone else's relationship. That look, they're holidaying. He does so much for her. She does so much for him. You have to make sure to be aware of the fact that someone's relationship is always going to be different than your relationship. And someone's life is always going to be different than your life. So learn to be aware. I know that we're talking about someone who's the most aware person right now. But even on a very small day-to-day level, if you try inculcating these habits, it's not difficult. You can apply this in your family relationship, in your work space with your colleagues, in your personal intimate relationships, everything. And the moment you start applying these things, you'll see the shift. Yeah.
One is I'm in a relationship. One is I want to be in a relationship. Then there are others who don't want a relationship or are feeling lonely.
Yeah.
Before the last 2-3 years, I used to say the biggest pandemic that's going to take place is loneliness.
100%.
Because the number of divorces that are increasing so dramatically, etc. How do we understand loneliness? And what are the things that we can do to start resolving this in our life?
There are two aspects to loneliness. First of all, a lot of people, when you talk about loneliness, a lot of people don't understand that loneliness is different from solitude. Solitude is I love my company and I enjoy it and I'm fine. And I need these sporadic moments of being with people, socializing, and that's fine. Loneliness is where I want to be with people, but I have no one.
Correct.
In which case, you can always, if you have this, I think, need to be with people, then you can always work on it by either, and I keep telling people, it's like by you moving out, let's say enrolling for certain courses or classes where you can meet like-minded people. Let's say if I like reading, I can maybe take a subscription or I can take of like a membership of some reading club or some library where I can meet like-minded people. And then it's all about you striking like a small conversation. And I think we need to learn the art of small conversations also. The art of, I think, shooting the shit with people in a very, just by, smiling or maybe the small talks.
Yeah.
Right? Then you
And I
can
think
always
people are
do
so
that.
scared to do that right now.
Small talks, people don't like it.
Even calling up and ordering food. We will use an app so that we don't have to interact with any human being
Yes.
to order our food. And then I was like, no, you just picked up a phone and call. And my friends were like, what? You do such things? What will they say?
I know a lot of people do that. It's like, why don't you order?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, give it to me. I'm fine. I don't mind. It's like, for me, let's say if I'm an ambivert, it's because I like my solitude, whereas I love socializing also. But I know where to draw my boundary. So, with regards to loneliness, if you want to be with people, there are ways you can. And again, if you go to the root cause of it, a lot of people are lonely because they cannot accept the differences with people. That listen, my friends are different from who I am. I want my friend, my partner, my this, my that to be exactly like my exact copy. No, you'll not like it.
So boring also.
Yeah, you'll not like it. So there's some kind of distinction that's important. And it's all about you being aware, being cognizant of people are going to be different. Now, for you and your sibling are two different people despite being raised by same set of parents.
Same environment, same everything.
Environment. But when you grew up, you had different things to pick up from the environment, from the circumstances, situations, from your peers, from your work culture, from your college, all of that, from your learnings. Similarly, we all are different people, different likings, different beliefs, different values, different perception, and the way we want to, like, differences in our approach to life overall. So the moment you become aware that fine, if I'm someone I like things a certain way, the other person can like it in a certain way. It's just about finding alignment through the differences. People don't do that. And that's why people are lonely. Become aware that someone can be different than who I am and what my likings are. Very important. Once you're aware of it, and if you want to make friends, then you'll make friends. Or you'll be with people. You can be in a relationship knowing that this person, my partner, is different than who I am. His likings or his choices are different. And that's
What
fine.
is the role of like social media narratives on things like this? So for example, right now on social media, it's all over that, I prefer my dog's company to humans. I prefer my cats to humans. Right? And these messages keep playing over and over and over and over. Have you noticed this like changing people's mindsets around these things?
Yes. I see people have become so comfortable with not dealing with people because they don't want to deal with the differences and the conflicts. See, when you have someone, conflicts are bound to happen because you'll have difference of opinions, right? Even if I'm sitting here and I look at a wall and I tell you that this is what I'm thinking about this wall, you'll be like, this is what I'm thinking about this wall. Even if it's a plain wall, you and I will have a different perception, right? We have to accept this. First things first.
Why do people find it so difficult to accept it? I don't understand.
People find it difficult because we do not like anything that's uncomfortable.
So the conversation about holding two different
Perception is very uncomfortable. And anything that brings me discomfort, I want to eradicate that from my life. People today, like I said, we look at every situation as crisis, which is why I want to reduce or minimize the number of crises in my life. Which also means that dealing with people is also one of the crises. Let me just eradicate that, right? But what if you come from a mind space? I think people have become so okay with, oh, I have a phone, I have internet, I can spend my whole life with just scrolling through things and be okay about it. Going back to how things were earlier, we used to live in tribes. So we are social beings. You cannot live alone. You need people. And this is something people need to understand. You'll complain about being alone, but you also don't want to put your hard yards in to move out and meet people and accept the differences. And be okay that people will have different opinion than who I am. So it's all about you becoming aware of it, right? And people are just scared of that kind of a discomfort.
Is this also the reason why people keep saying, oh, there's just no nice guys out there, there's just no nice girls out there?
Yeah, because
Is
they want
because
someone
of this?
Yes, because of this. Because people want someone to think the way I do, be the way I do the things I want. Look, again, in relationship, you'll have different non-negotiables, right? My non-negotiables are going to be different than my partner's non-negotiables. And they're going to be absolute different. They might be absolute two different poles. But I have to accept if I like the person, if I love the person, I have to meet his non-negotiables and he has to do the same. It's as simple as
How
that.
many non-negotiables should a person have? I know it's like a strange one, but
I think
andaza
you can,
se.
maybe you can talk about the first five, the topmost. The
Top five
are very
non-negotiables.
important.
Because
Top
some people
five.
have 35 non-negotiables.
Oh my God.
And this is why.
So, I know. So I came across someone who says one of my non-negotiables is whenever you use a toothpaste, you have to use a toothpaste from the top. And don't use it in the middle. That's my non-negotiable. I'm like, okay. Even that's a non-negotiable. So it's funny how people operate, but it's fine. You can always talk about the 5 top non-negotiables, and then of course there are other things you can adjust with, right?
So it's interesting. So for example, the toothpaste one.
Yeah.
So toothpaste one is a big thing in relationships actually.
Is
As a
it?
habit coach, yeah, it's a big thing. And there's such a simple fix. 2 separate toothpastes.
Huh.
That, you solve the problem.
Are you serious?
2 separate toothpaste. You squeeze yours from the middle, I squeeze mine from the top. How does it matter? Right? Like, you've eradicated a potential fight that could keep
But
looming.
I'll tell you what, I think I beg to differ a little bit, because even as a mental health professional, I think I would look at it from a lens that it is stopping you from being flexible. There's something called psychological flexibility, where you become so rigid that this is how it is, and I'm not willing to budge. And that's not the way that you live life. You will come across people who will use a toothpaste from the middle. Then what will you do? Are you gonna get mad at them? Because that's gonna irk you. Then what?
And we pissing off. How do you do this?
How do you do this? And then you're gonna have a brawl with this person then, because I didn't like it. So I think you have to work on yourself every single day.
Tell me about psychological flexibility.
So psychological flexibility is more about you become flexible with things in your life, where you do not have rigid mindset, you don't have fixed mindset. You have a growth mindset. Someone who has a growth mindset that, okay, if I failed at this, no problem, let me fix this, let me figure out what can I do in order to work through things. That's called you being psychologically flexible, which means if I have a rigid mindset, let's say about time, that this is my time frame, and I'm going to do this during these hours. And let's suppose if I got a surprise from someone, let's suppose like a friend came over. She surprised me that, hi, what's up? I was just around and I just came over to say hi to you. Now, if I'm not psychological flexible, I'm going to be resentful towards her. So I will ruin my time with her. Plus, I'll ruin my, like, even after she's gone, I'm going to resent her all the time. So what did I do? I'm not flexible enough that it's okay. Sometimes things can happen a certain way, which can be different, or which can be way too different than what I expected it to be. Right? And it's important for you to be flexible enough that things can take a different turn at any given point. You have to become sort of flexible.
So that mindset is important to create.
Yes. And psychological flexibility is just as simple as you having a growth mindset instead of having a fixed mindset or fixed, I think, approach to something.
This is the way it has
This
to be
is
done.
the way it has to be. For example, let's say if you're putting content, and if you have a rigid mindset that this is how I want to put it, this is what I want to tell people. But if you don't understand what your audience wants, if you don't become flexible enough to understand what is it that your people want to know, then it's a case of it's a miss that you'll miss out on a lot of things then. Right?
Life will pass you by.
Yes.
You know, and it also comes down to, I'm guessing, the way that you see yourself and your self-image and stuff like this. And there's a lot of, self-deprecating behavior taking place right now. People's self-images are, on purpose, they're trying to ruin it. What's your take on this kind of the culture that we're in, which is self-deprecating?
One of the self-deprecating humor that people's habit is self-deprecating humor. They make fun of themselves, saying whatever, labeling themselves or using that, oh, this is what I am. And then they're like, oh, it was just a self-deprecating humor. But somewhere, like in your mind, in your subconscious, you've already put yourself down, where you feel that this is what you have created, an image of yourself. And because you've created an image of yourself, this is how you look towards your image. This is how you've created your picture. So no matter how hard you try to cover up saying it was self-deprecating, you've already looked down upon yourself.
It's a recreation.
Yes, and a lot of self-deprecating behavior comes from critical parenting, from our childhood. I keep talking about childhood upbringing because it matters so much. It shapes you into who you are as an individual, as
Completely.
a person. If you've experienced critical parenting, where your emotions, your feelings, I think your needs were dismissed by your significant other, your significant caregivers, primary caregivers. When you grow up, you will become a critical parent to yourself. Even if you don't have parents who are critical to you. Over a period of time, they'll become too nice to you. They'll understand you. They'll make you feel seen, heard. But then there is a part of you that says that, oh, I have to be critical to myself. Only then I will function well. And that's why a lot of perfectionism also comes. Why do you think people have this problem with perfectionism? Because maybe they've had a critical parenting where the parents wanted him or her to be a certain way, that you have to be perfect in order to be good, or to receive our love, or receive our appreciation, or to make you feel seen and heard. So what happens in your head? Now you've had this belief system that I have to be perfect in everything. And it can be so self-deprecating, so much, that sometimes you start romanticizing it also. That it's okay, I'm perfect. I want things to be in a perfect way, perfect to T. And it can affect you in many different
And
ways.
relationships,
Relationships also, because what happens sometimes, let's suppose if you've got critical parenting, I'll go back to the childhood, back and forth, but where you found it difficult to receive your primary caregiver's love with ease, let's suppose when you grow up and you find someone who really loves you, you'll always dismiss that person's love, because in your head you're like, I'm not worthy of this person's love. Why? Because in my childhood, it took me I had to literally put my efforts in, hard yards in, to
Only
receive
then.
their love. Only then. So, which
if it's
means
coming too easy, it's not true.
it's not true. That's actually self-deprecating in nature. And which also means that people, a lot of times, they intellectualize a lot of things. It's like, let's suppose if I tell my partner that, look how we are aligned, and you know how beautifully that, we match each other's levels and our thought patterns and our functions and all of that, our approach to life, how we match, and how we are aligned. Maybe he'll just start intellectualizing it and making fun of it, saying, har cheez ko, everything you can't say it's alignments, na. Intellectualizing. Maybe it's just that maybe you think the same way as I do. So what happens a lot of times, we intellectualize things. That's one of the way how we become so self-deprecating. These are some of the habits. And I think the more you become aware of, I think a simple question can help you with everything. And that's whether this is helping me grow or this is holding me back.
Every behavior, everything that you see, ask yourself, am I growing through this or is it holding me back?
That's
and
it.
if it's holding me back, what do I do?
What do I do?
What do I do?
Yes. So what do I do? How can I bring the shift? Unfortunately, we focus a lot more on the problems. We don't focus on the solution. So it's just that we need to be a bit more solution oriented. And it's very important to be solution oriented. We need to focus on solution, that no matter whatever problem that I'm facing right now, what can I do about it? No matter what that turbulence is about, what can I do about it?
What can I do about it? And the next step is do something about
Yes,
it.
do something about it. Which also means that, like you mentioned it in your book, that what are the small steps you can take and make it too small to fail. Make it very stupid to fail.
Stupidly small, extremely easy.
But I think, like I said, I wouldn't call it stupid because, again, you look
Down on yourself.
You put yourself down. You think that if you don't do it, you start sabotaging yourself somewhere. You're like, you're good for nothing. Look, you
Couldn't
didn't
even
do
do this.
So I wouldn't call it too stupid to fail, but I would say it's too small to fail.
Too small to fail.
That if I have to read like one paragraph, I'll be able to read it. Which means that even if it's like a small 2-liner, I'll do it. I know it's too small for me.
Love it. Fantastic. Ekta, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think we covered such a wide variety of topics and especially issues that are currently being faced by people.
Yes.
Where can people find out more about you, reach out to you, connect, continue this conversation with you?
I think they can reach out to me on Instagram, email me, YouTube, all of that.
Can you give your email address out?
I think it's easily available on my Instagram,
On your Instagram
bio.
so people find you from
can
there.
email me directly. And that's why a lot of people who want to actually sign up for a therapy, for a session, for a coaching, they usually email me. They can email me there.
Perfect.
And of course, DM a lot of times. Like, I hate to say this, but a lot of times I miss on the DMs. So don't DM.
Don't DM,
but you
send
can email.
Fantastic. Lovely. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
IVM